Hi everyone, it's Sucreyaro again, and we're here with another book. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. This one should have like one of those paper covers that go on the hardback books, but it doesn't. It's gone, so I'm gonna look it up. It's The Heights by Brian James, yeah. So it just has the last name as books do, so every time I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is James Patterson or whatever that guy's name is, but it's not. Overview. It's loading. Okay, here it is. So apparently the back says, Henry liked to imagine his life began that cold rate. So an ad just popped up and it. Bro, I'm just trying to read. Restarting. So the book is The Heights by Brian James. I had more I wanted to say before I jumped right in. What am I doing? I am so sorry. Okay, sorry. One of my tabs also said it was recording, so I was like, I ain't recording anything. Excuse me. Well, aside from this tab, obvi, I use websites for recording, if you didn't know, if you got confused by the tabs. Anyway, that last book, I am so sorry for the torment that had been. Honestly, as a kid, I remembered that book, and I enjoyed it so much, and I thought it was so cute and sweet, and now I reread it and discover that my childhood was a lie. And it's so upsetting. Like, most of y'all that tuned in, Jinxie, understandable that you didn't even stick around to hear the ending, and I had to message Jinxie. We're talking about Jinxie here. I had to message and like give a summary of the ending. But as a kid, I enjoyed that book so much. I thought it was so cute and sweet, and I thought it was like a real nice book, even though there were some parts that like got me angry. So it's so upsetting to go back and realize just how messed up it was. Like, this is a messed up situation. This kid is messed up, and he says messed up things, and he does messed up things, and it really has messed with my head. And it's very upsetting. And I am now terrified of The Heights by Brian James, and reading that, because I acknowledge the... Have I sworn? I can't tell. If I swore, then whatever. I honestly... As long as I'm not saying, like, F-bombs and shit. Oh, yeah, I have swore. Whatever. Who cares? Honestly, I don't know who I was protecting by not swearing. It's like, oh man, a kid here swears if they even tune into this, because kids even like hearing books nowadays. Holy cow. But, like, I don't know why I was being such a priss over swearing. Jesus. But I am now terrified, because this book, I remember it also being problematic. I am now terrified that I'm going to open, 4:20 in the time of recording, that I'm going to open this book and discover that it was not as good as I remember it being. So, like, I got more books today at the dollar store, and some of those look scary. Not scary as in, like, oh my gosh, jump scares, but scary as in, like, this seems problematic, and I don't know why I got this. But it's also, like, I didn't spend good money on it. It was literally $1.25 because the Dollar Tree is raising its prices now. Did you know that? Holy cow. But, yeah, that's a thing that's going on. And I think I've talked enough. And if Jinxie wants to be like, hey, yo, are you mentally okay? They can do that. Honestly, this is not a podcast. What the heck? Why is I have a school computer, and I have the computer I used to record, and my school computer was on a tilt, and that's because I had pliers under it. I wonder if I could throw the pliers and they'd, like, stick in the wall like people do and look cool doing. I'm not gonna try it. I was gonna try it, but then I was like, no. Anyway, so now let's take the opportunity to jump into our new book, The Heights by Brian James. And let's go to our tab with the summary, because we always read the back before starting or getting a new book, because that gives you some insight. Like, I always do that. I am that nerd in, like, the book aisle or in the bookstore that would stand and read the books and, like, read the back or the little thing that's in the, you know what I'm talking about, like, summary. I'd stand and read that, and some people would just be like, this cover looks interesting, yoink, and they'd take it. But I've suffered enough by doing that. I've learned my lesson. I read them. So, now jumping in to The Heights by Brian James, and the summary that it has on Goodreads.com. Henry liked to imagine his life began that cold, rainy day in San Francisco when Mr. Earnshaw found him shivering by the side of the road. That was the day Henry met Catherine. For Henry, Catherine is like a precious gift. She pushes away his angry thoughts and makes him feel safe and calm. And though Mr. Earnshaw, a widow, raises the orphan and Catherine as brother and sister, their love for each other goes much deeper. They vow to... Hold up! I'm so scared. Oh my god. Should I even go forward? I completely forgot that I need a moment. No, we're actually pausing this. I need a moment. I need to consult my people. Hang on. And we are back. It's been like a freaking hour. Because I really did not want to start reading this, purely because I already made a decision and I wasn't going to back out of it, even though I was like, I just read The Heartbreak Messenger. That was... I already swore several times. I don't give a shit anymore. It was a shit show. And now we are back and reading a different book. Wait, now I need to check something. Have we read any... We've done that. This is our first book written by a woman on this podcast. Women! I'm not even gonna regret it. I'm not even gonna have the common sense to regret it. So we're reading Distant Waves, a novel of the Titanic, by Suzanne Weyn. Weyn? I'm so sorry that I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's spelled W-E-Y-N. And this one is not hardcover, so I don't have to go searching on the internet to find the missing little thing. The heck is it called? Summary. I always forget that. Is it a synopsis or a summary? What's the difference? Jinxie, you know who you are. Jinxie even helped me make the decision. I frantically messaged this Discord server and was like, guys, I'm having troubles. I was reading, and it's like adoptive siblings fall in love, and it's supposed to be a romance thing, and Jinxie popped in and helped make a decision. So props to Jinxie You're epic. You are the best. So I'm gonna do a page count. These books keep getting progressively longer. So that means the episodes are gonna be longer. And this intro is even longer. We'll figure it out as we go. I will give page counts. Jinxie, keep me from obsessing over this. I don't know how many weeks are in March. I'll have to check that, because that also affects the amount of time to read the book. Jinxie, you failed before, but I didn't give you a task. If I start to, go into this, and it becomes too much, I want you to scream at me. Just scream at me. Or completely ignore me. Just, threaten to completely ignore me. And that might break me enough to not be a dumbass. Okay? You have your task. You have your assignment. Do you understand the assignment? But, reading the back. 5 sisters, 5 fates. Chased by their pasts and drawn toward a more hopeful future, 4 sisters embark on the journey of their lives aboard the Titanic. One is going to have her wedding during the voyage. Another has become involved in a feat of scientific intrigue that has the potential to alter the course of history. All of them feel out of place, and at least one of them will soon find herself out of time. Cover design by Lily Meir. Because the cover is, really pretty. It's like a wedding gown with a bouquet of white tulips, I think they are. They look like white tulips. Or roses. They're either white tulips or white roses. And the wedding dress is, underwater, and it's being tinted blue on, parts of it, and it's so pretty. You can look up Distant Ways. I don't know if it'll have the same cover, but it is so pretty. Acknowledgements. To my sisters, Regina Weyn or Arredondo. I'm gonna be pronouncing it Wine because that seems right. Or is it Wayne? I don't even know. I'm gonna keep saying wine. And if it's wrong, then... No, actually, I have a computer. I'm on a computer. Suzanne Weyn. Pronunciation. Okay. Dutch.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn. Suzanne Weyn. I'm sorry, it's different languages, so there's Dutch, Danish, English, UK.
Suzanne Weyn.
Wayne. English, USA.
Suzanne Weyn.
Wayne. But now I just want to go through all these pronunciations.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn. Australia?
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn. Why is Australia here? Oh my god, Canada?
Suzanne Weyn.
Ugh, that sounded like the heckin' GPS voice. Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn. That's Catalan. Chinese Mandarin.
Suzanne Weyn.
If I try to do that, it will be like a blatant mockery. So we're not doing it. Danish.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn.
Suzanne Weyn. Okay, so I'm gonna be pronouncing it Wayne, because that's what the website told me. Continuing. Sorry that this is not like as straightforward as the other episodes have been. To my sisters, Regina Weyn Ariandondo, Anne Wayne Maloney, and Suzanne Polubinskas Wayne. Women of spirit and compassion, what a blessing to have sisters like these. With thanks to David M. Young, Jonathan Valukas, Colleen Celsius, and David Leviathan for the generous sharing of their ideas, books, and enthusiasm in the creation of this titanic tale. And thanks to Bill Gonzalez, Diana Wayne Gonzalez, and Ray Wayne Gonzalez, just because nothing would be worth writing without you. I have had 3 or 4 very striking and vivid premonitions in my life which have been fulfilled to the letter. I have others which await fulfillment. Of the latter I will not speak here, although I have them duly recorded, for which I to do so I should be accused of being party to bring about the fulfillment of my own predictions. W. T. Stead, famed British journalist who did not survive the sinking of the Titanic but predicted it. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. William Shakespeare, Hamlet. Prologue. Approaching Nova Scotia, Canada, 1914. Dear friend, I have never told this story before for fear of not being believed, or worse, ridiculed. The strange circumstances of my childhood have inclined me to have faith in only that which can be proven by science or verified by research. Yet this tale defies both methods of inquiry. It is difficult to know where to start such a story as the one I am about to recount, but I believe my tale has its roots in events that all occurred on a single day in 1898, well before the even more remarkable happenings of 1912. The things that occurred in 1898 led me on a path that, as I look back on it now, seems predestined. That day in my early childhood is emblazoned in my mind. All that I know about my life before that, I had been told by others, but the events of that most remarkable day, I recall as though they had been photographed. Now I am on a train headed toward Nova Scotia in Canada. I am propped against my suitcase writing this chronicle, partly in order to make sense of all that has happened, and partly to occupy my time and steady my nerves. So much is at stake now. My story, which I believe will have its final resolution in the next few hours, was set in motion on the day I witnessed my mother, Maud Taylor, in a spirit trance, contacting the dead for the very first time. Chapter 1. Oh, but I remember this book. The mom is like a spiritual seer or like a contactor. I don't know. What is it? There's like a word for it. But I forget the word. I completely forget the word. Maybe it'll come up. But it's one of the people that have like the ability to contact the dead. And it's not like a hoax or anything. Maybe it'll come up in the book. But it's one of those people, if you know what I'm talking about. And I know one of the daughters ends up like meeting the scientist. And I'm giving spoilers. Chapter 1. New York City, 1898. I edged behind a burgundy drape as my mother raised her arms wide and began to sway rhythmically, eyes shut, head turned back. An expression of earnest supplication suffused her delicate-featured face. Her reddish-brown curls swung behind her. "Speak to me, Mary Adelaide Treadwell," she intoned in her full 30 voice. "Cease your lonely haunting of this house and come to us." She was seated at a round table. To her right were 2 middle-aged women, their hair plaited high on their heads, lace framing their hopeful faces. Owners of the house, they watched my mother with intense, expectant eyes. To her left was a balding, ill-at-ease man of about 70. "Your sisters, Gertrude and Julia, are here," Mother went on. "They sense your presence in this house. They have heard your footsteps at night, noticed the furniture you have moved. Your husband, Mr. Richards, has joined us as well. It is their dearest wish that you make yourself known to those of us present now. The luxurious drapes had been drawn, separating the white blast of afternoon light from the elegant, high-ceilinged room. In the deep alcove behind the curtains, I could turn toward the street to see life proceeding as usual. Horse-drawn wagons trotting down cobblestone streets and women walking with parasols to protect them from the blazing summer sun, their male partners properly attired in top hat and coat despite the heat. It was reassuring to be reminded that normal life was going on, especially when compared to the scene unfolding within the darkened parlor room. I peered back through the break in the curtain and watched as my mother placed her hand on the table and told the others to do the same. You have been haunting this house of your childhood, Mary Adelaide. Tarry no longer in the shadows of the afterlife. Those who have loved you in life wish to know you still. A soft hand, not much larger than my own, reached out to clutch my fingers. My sister Mimi had also been shaken by the eeriness of it all and had come behind the curtain to hide. Ever the protective one, she had pulled our twin 2-year-old sisters, Amelie and Emma, asleep together in their large perambulator behind the drape with her. How old must we have been? I am certain it was the summer of 1898, which would mean I had just turned 4 and Mimi was 6. Mimi's large, amber-brown eyes sparked with terror even as her heart-shaped face radiated its startling beauty. With a hand not holding mine, she nervously twisted one of her curly, raven-black locks around her finger, a habit she would retain all her life. Even though Mimi looked as terrified as I felt, it was a comfort to have my big sister there holding my hand. She might not be able to save me from any horror that could arise from the summoning of the dead, but even at that young age, I was confident that she would never abandon me. With my medium brown hair and more ordinary looks, I would always see myself as a plain brown sparrow next to her glossy beauty, but it never mattered. We were so close that I experienced her glory as simply a reason for sisterly pride. A woman's sharp gasp riveted us to the scene. The table had begun to tip, from first to one side and then to the other. The two women gazed at it, agape with horror. The man craned his neck below its top, searching for the source of this movement. The tipping increased in speed, the banging of its 3-legged pedestal as it lifted from side to side on the wooden parquet floor created an unsettling clatter. "Mary Adelaide!" Mother implored, nearly shouting. "Speak to us! Haunt this house no more with coy signs. Instead, let us hear you directly." "Yes, talk to us, Mary Adelaide!" cried one of the women. "It's me, Gertrude!" The table settled into a slow rocking. Mother stood, revealing the round, pregnant belly beneath her flowing vine print dress. Mimi's crushing pressure on my hand would have made me cry out if what I was seeing had not already rendered me speechless. Mother's eyes grew wider than I had ever seen them. With her arms raised, she began to shiver as though a deep, bone-chilling frigidity— yes, I read that right. Sorry. Had descended upon her. I strained forward with an overwhelming impulse to wrap Mother in my arms and steady her violently convulsing frame, but Mimi's grip held me back. I beseeched Mimi with my eyes to let me go to our mother. Surely this couldn't be good for her or the baby she was carrying. Mimi shook her head. "No, Jane," she whispered. "Stay back." She checked the sleeping twins with a darting glance and retained her firm hold on my hand. Mother's eyes rolled back in their sockets as she threw her head back and shook it violently. Then, abruptly, her head snapped forward. That beloved face, which I had until that moment experienced as being as familiar as my own, was completely transformed. It had grown timid, the eyes uncertain, furtive. Gone, too, was the confident, bold posture I associated with her. In its place was a willowy stance that had never been hers. "Am I really back home?" she asked in a high, whispery voice, seeming confused. "Gertrude, Julia, is that you?" "It's us," Gertrude volunteered eagerly. "How old you've gotten!" Mother said with a gasp. "It's been 24 years since you died," Julia pointed out. "Has it?" Mother pressed her hand to her chest in a gesture of surprise I had never seen her use. "It seems to me that only a day has passed." She slowly turned to the man at the table. "My dear, you've lost your hair," she noted, and laughed lightly. "This is a fraud," the man shouted. "I'll not stand for another second of it." He pushed back from the table so fiercely that the chair he had been sitting on toppled behind him. A squeal from the perambulator made Mimi and me turn sharply toward it. The clatter of the chair had stirred the twins from their sleep. Emma sputtered and fussed, then settled back to sleep. Amelie, though, sat forward, wide eyes locked in fascination on Mother. Mother retained her life composure as Mr. Richards stormed out, slamming the door behind him. She bent toward Julia and Gertrude confidingly. "The spiritual realm has always made him ill at ease," she said lightly, as if his departure was of little consequence. "He's a captain of industry, and you know how they are." "Of course we know," Julia said. "What man in our social circle is not?" Mother looked at Julia, blinked hard, and wilted into her chair, her head bent down on her chest. Again I tried to go to her, and once more Mimi held on to me. A white vapor, like steam from a boiling pot of water, rose behind Mother. "What is that?" Gertrude asked, looking anxiously from Mother to Julia. Amelie pointed, leaning so far out of the perambulator that I feared she would fall. I nudged Mimi and signaled for her to pull our baby sister in, which she did. Mother lifted her head with great effort. "Julia, waste no time. It is short." Mother slumped forward on the table. This time I wouldn't allow Mimi to hold me back. I raced out of my hiding place and went to her side, shaking her. "Mama! Mama!" I shouted. "Wake up! Wake up, please!" Mother simply lay there, slumped over, not stirring. Mimi threw the drapes aside, letting sunlight once more flood the room as Gertrude tried to rouse Mother with shakes and murmurs of solicitude. Julia poured a glass of water from the crystal decanter on the sideboard and brought it to her. All the activity woke Emma, who reddened and began to cry heartily. Mimi rocked the perambulator, fruitlessly attempting to soothe her. Emma's wails only increased, which turned out to be fortunate, since Mother lifted her head in response. Relieved beyond measure that she was alive, I threw my arms around her. She stroked my hair and then rose as though everything was perfectly fine. Crossing the room, she lifted Emma from the perambulator and cradled her in the crook of her arm, rocking her gently. The crying stopped. "Maud, you were magnificent!" Gertrude praised her. "I have no doubt it was Mary—" My mother is calling me. Hang on. And I'm back. Apparently my mom appeared with dinner. So, I went and ate some rice and noodles. Where were we? I have no doubt it was Mary Adelaide that we spoke to, Julia added. Every gesture and intonation was hers. Mother seemed bewildered for a moment. "You mean it happened?" "Oh, yes," Gertrude told her. "Weren't you aware?" Mother shook her head. "No, I suppose I must have passed out. When I awoke there at the table, I assumed I had fainted." I looked to Mimi, checking to see if she could make any sense of this. Mimi's eyes had narrowed, and her delicate dark brows were in a ponderous V formation. Clearly, she was as confused as I was, and was working hard to sort this out. "Did you... What?" "Oh, messages. "Did you see into the spirit world while you were in your trance?" Gertrude asked Mother. "Did you see Mary Adelaide?" "No, I did not see your sister," Mother revealed as she sat on a velvet chair, still gently jiggling Emma. "She must have taken over my body and sent my spirit traveling elsewhere." "You certainly have the gift. I am so happy you have not been neglecting the potential we saw you demonstrate as a girl," Gertrude gushed. Mother shook her head. "Not true." Gertrude bleh. Gertrude cocked her head to the side in a gesture of confusion. I don't understand. You have been neglecting your gifts? Mother sighed and nodded. You ladies know that as a young woman I showed great promise as a medium. That's the word. Now what the heck was that? Snap that. What the heck? What was that? Who just took over my body? Made me say that and ran away. Who? Who did that to me? Now who the Kentucky Fried Frick will make me do that? I am sure as shit that ain't no ghosties in this house that will make me go. That's the... I am sure as shit. Hey, yo. Now what the... I ain't saying the F word. That's a bit too far. But like... I am sure as shit that ain't no ghost in this house making me do some goofy ass shit. So that either has to be me being a dumbass, as I always am, or some crazy wacky shit is going on. And I don't know which is worse. Now continuing. When your family visited mine back in Hydesville, you saw the demonstration of my gifts. I recall it well, Julia said. You were being mentored by Maggie Fox then. It's so sad that she has passed over. People said that she and her sisters were frauds, but I never believed it. Leah, the eldest, was a fraud, but Kate and Maggie had the gift, Mother insisted. I did not know it then, but I have since learned that the Fox sisters of Hydesville were famous spiritualists. When the ghost of a dead peddler who had once lived in their house... What? Okay, I didn't read that wrong, sorry. And had stayed around to haunt it, contacted them with strange raps and thumps. They became sensations, and started the movement known as spiritualism. We've remembered you clearly, Gertrude added. You were so young, and yet so impressive when you contacted the spirit of our dead president, Mr. Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln was easy to find. He conducted seances in the White House, I am told. His wife was a believer, Mother said. Don't be so modest, Gertrude chided. I have never forgotten your gifts. That is why we sought you out when we needed to speak to Mary Adelaide. We were thrilled to discover you were living in Brooklyn. That was indeed destiny, because I have only just arrived in Brooklyn from Massachusetts in the past month, Mother said. My stay with my mother-in-law is only temporary, God willing. I'm at loose ends since the death of my beloved husband and must decide where to take up permanent residence. I have of late come to hear about an entire community of spiritualists upstate, just south of Buffalo, Julia Treadwell told Mother. Now that you are a widow, perhaps it would be a hospitable environment in which to raise your daughters. It sounds compelling, Mother allowed. Julia went to the sideboard and took out a pad and pencil. She wrote something on the paper and handed it to Mother. Mother read the name on the pad and put it in a crochet... I do this. I should know how to say the word. Damn it. And put it in a crochet bag she carried on her wrist. Holding Amelie in one arm and Emma in the other, she beckoned for Mimi and me to push the empty perambulator and follow her to the door. Good day, ladies, she said to Julia and Gertrude as the Treadwell's butler held the door open for us. Thank you so much for telling me about this town. It might be just the spot I have been seeking. Your fee, Julia reminded Mother, hurrying to drop an envelope in the purse. Oh, yes, Mother said. I'd nearly forgotten about it. Maude, what do you think Mary Adelaide meant when she said my time was short? Julia asked, her voice touched with a wavering tremble. I have no way to know, Mother said softly, but time is fleeting for all of us. It is advice we could all use. Then why did she not say the same thing to Gertrude? Julia asked. Why did she address it to me, specifically? Mother pressed Julia's hands in her own. The mysteries of life and death are as unknown to me as they are to you, she said. I'm sorry. When the door of the Treadwells, when the door of the I hate my, I, I, when the door of the Treadwells, dumbass, I am not gonna explain what the noise is. Well. Anyway. When the door of the Treadwells' brick row house was closed, Mother hurried us several buildings down the street. Only then... I can't talk to save my life. Only then did she stop to count the money in the envelope. A smile slowly spread across her face. There's money enough here for supper and train fare tomorrow, she told us. A train? Where are we going? Mimi asked. I'm not exactly sure at the moment, Mother admitted, stroking her rounded belly. We need to go somewhere so I can think about it more carefully. She didn't know it, but we had already stepped on the path. Okay, so I need to verify that a perambulator is like a stroller. Perambulator. Baby carriage. I was right. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. I need to shut up. I need to shut my damn diddly darn mouth. We're only on chapter 2, and we are like 40 minutes in, and that is just pathetic. Chapter 2. Mother chose to think on a bench and hang the frick on. Did I pause this recording so I could shriek just now? Yeah, I freaking did. Because there are some things I do. I yell, I thump tables, but nobody needs to hear the high-pitched, unnecessary shriek that I can emit when I am angered. Unless I am targeting them. They're not targeting you. You're innocent. You haven't done anything that I know of. So, you don't deserve to have your ears exploded by a high-pitched shriek. But if you do, well, I'm sure I could find a way to make it happen if necessary. Well, dears, let's continue, shall we? Chapter 2. Mother chose to think on a bench in nearby Washington Square Park. She arranged her billowing skirts discreetly over her pregnant frame and settled on one of the green park benches. I'll watch the twins, girls, but you two go for a stroll, she said. Mother needs a moment to meditate. The urban park's open space with its imposing white arch, sparkling fountain, and winding cobblestone paths was a perfectly agreeable spot in which to amble. Mimi and I meandered along, each of us lost in her own reverie. I was thinking about everything that had happened in the last month. My father's death from smallpox, our mother selling most of our belongings and moving us into Grandmother Taylor's stately Brooklyn brownstone. I sensed, without really knowing, as small children often do, that mother was devastated not only about father's death, but also about her current living conditions. She and Grandmother Taylor did not get on well. We traveled the circumference of the park and then headed back to mother on her bench. I'd always thought my mother made an imposing sight with her long skirt flowing around her. She was not exactly fat, but rather rounded, and now that she had a baby on the way, she was an even larger presence than usual. Emma was toddling around in front of her, walking several steps and falling backward on her diapered bottom, then getting up to try again. Amelie sat languidly on the bench with her side melted against mother's, observing Emma's exploits. Mimi and I joined mother on the bench. "Have you finished thinking?" Mimi asked. "I have." Mother took out the note Julia Treadwell had given to her and pressed it flat on her knee. "This is to be our future home." "Spirit Vale," Mimi read. I sometimes wonder how much my memory of that day is influenced by the things Mimi and I have talked about through the years, and how much of it is purely my own remembering. Being a little older, she had greater understanding of what was going on around us. Let me promise you, though, I am absolutely sure about the events that happened next. Even now, so many years later, if I close my eyes, I can conjure the scene in every detail. And hardly a day has passed that I have not, for at least a fleeting moment, recalled it. We were on the wide boulevard called Houston Street. It was a sedate scene with only a few horse-drawn wagons passing by. My head was craned back, ogling the wide 4- and 5-story buildings. Coming from a New England village of clapboard wooden houses, this city seemed like something conjured from imagination, absolutely huge and wondrous. Mimi tapped me on the shoulder and hopped forward. It was a game we had begun to play since coming to the city. I would then try to jump farther than she without landing on a sidewalk crack. I took the challenge and sprang forward, but the moment that I landed, the sidewalk pushed me back with tremendous force, throwing me into Mimi. Stumbling, the two of us fell over, me on top of my sister. Looking around, I saw Mother leaning over the twins in the perambulator as though to shield them. She'd lifted one arm over her head and was searching around for Mimi and me. "Stay down! Cover your heads!" she shouted the moment she spotted us. In the next second, debris of rock, dirt, and plaster showered down on us. A brick crashed to my right. Mimi and I lunged to either side as a narrow opening crackled between us, traveling fast across the sidewalk. The pavement in front of me had jutted forward, disconnecting the two slabs and thrusting them apart. I tucked myself into a ball, covering up as Mother had commanded. On every side the buildings were shaking. Pow! 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 Followed by shrill crackling. 3 upper windows in a row from the building next to me exploded, raining shards of shattered glass to the street. Gradually, I realized that a terrible pain was burning in my head. It was as if my skull was vibrating at a tremendous speed. My teeth chattered so violently that my jaw ached. I became aware of a high, excruciating whine that seemed to be inside my head. When I checked on Mimi, she was also wincing in agony, her eyes shut tight and clutching her forehead. My eyes pulsated like a heartbeat. It was horrible. Terror rocked me, for I imagined that I might literally explode if it didn't all stop right away. An oncoming clang of an approaching fire wagon mixed with a high whine in my head. Then another set of fire bells from a different direction started up. I sensed a nearby presence and dared to open my clenched eyes. A man's worn brown shoes were the first thing I saw. Gazing up the length of him, I took in a tall, gaunt man of about 40. His nearly black hair, parted down the middle, was wind-blown and askew. The dark mustache above his thin lips twitched anxiously as his onyx eyes darted in every direction, taking in the scene of destruction. He lifted me to my feet with a strong, firm grip. "Where are your parents?" he asked with a heavy Eastern European accent, his laboratory jacket flapping in the wind that the tumult had stirred up around us. I located Mother crouched low to the ground with her arms over Amelie and me and Emma and pointed to her. The perambulator had fallen to its side. "Oh no!" the man exclaimed. Mimi rose unsteadily to her feet. With arms outstretched to keep from falling, we followed the man over to Mother and the twins. Come inside!" he urged her as another slab of stone crashed in front of us. "You must come inside." Mother carried one twin in each of her arms as we stumbled after him. The clanging of bells was now all around us. The horse-drawn fire wagons were pulling to rapid halts, mixed with police wagons. A fireman leaped down and was instantly knocked over by the swaying ground beneath him. We followed the tall man into a nearby building marked 46 East Houston. Once we were inside, he raced up a staircase ahead of us. "Follow me," he called over his shoulder. "I cannot wait. There is something I must do at once." Mother seemed unsure for a moment, but a piece of ornate trim from the building's facade. Now I need to look up pronunciation, and I was reading so smoothly. Pronunciation, that's what I need. Facade. Is it pronounced There's a video on it, so we're watching a video real quick.
One exterior side of a building, usually the front. How do you go about pronouncing it? This is a word from French.
Okay.
For reference in French, it is said as façade.
Okay, façade.
In English, however, it is usually said as facade. You do want to stress on the second syllable, the sad syllable.
Okay.
Facade.
So it's just facade. Okay. But a piece of ornate trim from the building's facade crashed down by the front door, and that was all the convincing she needed. The staircase quivered as we climbed, and by the time we reached the fourth-floor landing, we saw an open door that led into a spacious, one-room apartment with sparse furniture and a ceiling that rose about 12 feet high. In the middle of the room, a metal girder reached about halfway to the high ceiling. Strapped to the girder was a metal box with a gauge. Dumbass. With a gauge and dials, a machine of some sort about the size of an alarm clock. The man who had guided us into the building did not even notice our quiet, curious entry into the room. He was much too intent on his task. He held a sledgehammer over his head and violently, smash after repeated smash, destroyed the small, humming machine. Chapter 3. I want to at least get to the end of Chapter 3. I would prefer to be at Chapter 5 by the time we're finished, or done with Chapter 5. However, actually, there's no true time limit, and I suppose I did waste 15 minutes, plus every momentary lapse in reading for commentary or mindless cackling, or any such moment. So, perhaps we could go to an hour 15, an hour 30, if we're to be so daring. However, let us continue reading and see how time takes us. For this book has time as an important thing, time and memory. And of course, spirituality, with the demonstration of mediums and spiritualism. Chapter 3. I wandered to the hall of high, wide windows looking down onto Houston Street. The scene was pure pandemonium. Those who had been inside in restaurants and stores stumbled out wearing dazed expressions to see what had happened. Horses that had been pulling hansom cabs, fire wagons, and police wagons balked at riding down the broken road, neighing their displeasure and refusing to move forward. This created a jam in the roadway which brought on great bouts of shouting and fighting. The terrible pain and whine that had tormented me had vanished, but a dull throb had taken their place, and my bones ached awfully, especially my jawbone, even my teeth. The twins were draped across Mimi's knees, looking spent by the experience. Glancing at Mimi, I wasn't sure if her dark eyes brimmed with tears or if she was simply squinting against the harsh light that flooded the vast room. She was anxiously twisting one of her curls. "You made it stop, sir, didn't you?" Mother surmised, standing in front of the man. Her voice was strong, almost accusatory. "By smashing that thing." He slumped in a beat-up brown leather armchair, a posture of complete dejection. "Made it stop?" he repeated with weary irony. He glanced at the flattened metal box, still strapped to the girder. "Yes, I suppose I did." Having said that, though, he lifted his head and seemed to brighten. "More to the point, my dear woman, I also made it start." "It wasn't a natural earthquake, then?" Mimi inquired, in a voice much shakier and smaller than her usual tone. "Well," he gazed at Mother, as if gauging if he could trust her with further information. Oh my freaking bejeezles, these are no context quotes in this server. "Yeah, Jinxie, this was you that sent this. You know what you did. When you listen to this, you'll know. You'll know for certain. Now I have to check my messages to give a time mark at 8:17 p.m. March 5th, 2022. Well, 8:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. March 5th, 2022. I can't remember. I always make this mistake. If they're in Pacific Standard Time or Central Standard Time. Well, they'll know their own time zone. They know what time it was for them. It comes as easily as breathing now, doesn't it, dear? And you know what you've done. Though I can't say I haven't said worse. But my goodness, what an unexpected thing to read when trying to record a podcast. I have a feeling that Jinxie is the only one that puts the full effort into listening to these. Aside from last weekend's debacle with the Heartbreak Messenger. Clearly. If I suffered reading it, I can't imagine the pain it brought to be listening to such a thing. However, this book seems alright so far. Something that you would enjoy, Jinxie. And I have a feeling that audiobooks are a touch better to... Well, not audiobooks, I wouldn't quite say, because it's not all reading. But you do enjoy my voice, darling. You've admitted it yourself. I suppose I can continue. Well, he gazed at Mother as if gauging if he could trust her with further information. "No need to hesitate, sir. Clearly it was caused by that contraption." Mother broke the stalemate, a note of impatience creeping into her voice. "It's too late to deny that. The man threw his arms up and dropped them again on the sides of the chair. With this gesture he gave up any reticence he may have felt, and from there on was completely forthcoming. It is my latest experiment, an electromechanical oscillator, a vibratory mechanism. I was amplifying its output to see if it could align with the vibrational patterns of the outside buildings. Vibrational patterns? Buildings do not vibrate, Mother objected. At least, not usually. The man rose and began to pace, warming to his subject. That is where you are wrong, madam. Everything vibrates. Everything. Vibration is the key to the universe. The very earth could be split in two given the right vibrations. Well, I sincerely hope things won't get that far. Nonetheless, your demonstration was impressive. Everything out there was most certainly vibrating, Mother said wryly. But it would seem there are still a few problems left to be worked out in your mechanism. Wouldn't you agree? For the first time, the man's mouth quirked into something like a smile. Excellent point, he allowed. Nonetheless, it worked. It worked. He clapped his hands together gustily, his face becoming radiant with a broad grin. Without intending to, Mimi and I both smiled too, infected by his glee. That was your idea of success? Mother questioned incredulously, gesturing toward the street. I am sorry for the destruction, of course. Looking out the window, I witnessed what was happening and was about to stop the machine when I saw your babes in distress. I had endangered you, so I ran down to retrieve you before destroying the machine. By letting the machine run, I caused further ruin, I'm afraid. Regrettably, these sort of choices are sometimes not so simple. Why didn't you just turn it off? Mother inquired. Did you forget to invent an off switch? Switch? My goodness, I could not speak. It jammed. I had pushed it beyond its capacity. And you still consider the experiment a success? Mother pressed. He became nearly giddy with excitement. Yes, it was an astounding success. I merely intended to create an almost imperceptible quiver, but that's just a matter of tinkering, of getting the calibrations correct. The point is that it works, just as it came to me in my dream. You dreamed that earthquake machine? Mimi asked. Earthquake machine! What a wonderful name! That is what I shall call it. Earthquake machine! He exclaimed as if talking to himself. Then he spoke directly to Mimi, with none of the condescension adults often direct toward children. Yes, little miss, I dreamed it. Many of my greatest inventions have come in dreams or meditations. Tilting her head to one side curiously, Mimi studied the tall, highly animated man. What have you invented? Many, many inventions, he said. Some of them are still in my mind, but here is one. 3 years ago, I harnessed the power of Niagara Falls and lit entire cities with electric light, running on alternating current. If they had done it Edison's way, with direct current, it would have required a power plant for every mile. Those plants run on coal. Do you realize how that would have fouled the air? At Niagara Falls, through my deal with the Westinghouse Company, we powered Niagara to Chicago, Toronto, Boston, and New York. Mother gasped sharply, and her hand flew to her mouth. That was you? You were Tesla? I am indeed Tesla, he confirmed, bowing gallantly. Though I later learned that his name was Nikola Tesla, he stayed forever in my mind not as Mr. Tesla or Dr. Tesla, but simply as Tesla, as in the same way one would say Socrates or Washington. I've read of you, Mother spoke excitedly, moving closer to him, and about your rivalry with Edison. Tesla scowled. Edison invents, while I discover what is already there to be uncovered. He relies on blind chance. He guesses with no regard for theory or scientific formulation. He stumbles upon his inventions. I take it you don't like Mr. Edison, Mother observed. Almost 15 years ago, when I first came to America from Austria-Hungary, I worked for Edison. He offered me $50,000 to revamp his generators and machinery. Do you know what kind of laboratory I could have set up with $50,000? So I did what he asked, working myself into a state of exhaustion. When I was done, the efficiency of all his machinery was many times what it had been. And do you know what he told me when I asked for my money? What? Mother said. He laughed and said, Tesla, you don't understand our American humor. Later that year, I resigned. But surely you have recovered that money many times over in your work at Niagara Falls, Mother remarked. The electricity was derived from the power of Niagara Falls, not from me. I do not believe in making money from naturally occurring resources. It should be free, like water or air. For a few to claim and it is theirs to sell is wrong. What a unique perspective, Mother remarked. Clearly you are not American. I am a citizen, Tesla informed her. I became a naturalized citizen in 1891 when I was 35 years of age. But your thinking is not American, she clarified. You are not a capitalist. So I have been told. Edison is the great American. By now we had almost recovered from the shock of what had happened on the street, and Mother was clearly intrigued by this encounter with Tesla, admiring his intelligence. Still, I was a little surprised by what she said next. Mr. Tesla, she said, walking around to the window so that she was standing directly in front of him, I am not educated like yourself, so I would appreciate your thoughts on a subject that has been on my mind lately. I sat forward, as did Mimi, both of us fiercely interested to hear what she would ask. I am at your service, Tesla obliged. What do you think of ghosts, Mr. Tesla? He did not seem in the least surprised by her odd question. Well, madam, as I said previously, everything vibrates. I don't follow, she said. Have you ever seen a hummingbird? I have. And do its wings seem to disappear as it hovers near a red tubular flower? Mother considered for a quick moment. I suppose they do, yes. Yet the hummingbird's wings are still there despite the fact that we cannot see them, Tesla said. The rate of the vibration of the hummingbird's wings renders them invisible to our feeble human senses. So when a person's spirit passes over, that person might begin to vibrate on a different level? Mother said, struggling to follow. Vibrate at a different frequency, he corrected, in the same way in which one can tune in different channels on a wireless communication, one may be able to tune in different spirit frequencies. Do you mean like in Marconi's radio invention? Mother asked. I invented it first, Tesla said sternly, looking out the window. Marconi merely beat me to the patent and the credit. I'm fighting him in court. I'm so sorry for you, Mother sympathized. It's a terrible injustice not to receive credit for one's work. No matter, Tesla said quietly, continuing to gaze out the window. The point is that science bears out a belief in what cannot be seen. In physics, there are many things we cannot see directly. The underwater transmittal of sound, power from above surging along wires and through the ground in waves of electricity. So then, you believe that the existence of ghosts, spirits who hover in this dimension after their physical incarnation has ended, is a possibility? Mother asked. Tesla turned dramatically from the window and faced Mother. Madam, I believe that everything is a possibility. This was the last bit of convincing Mother had needed. For the first, but not the last time, Tesla had changed our lives. Chapter 4. That night, Mother commanded us to assemble our few belongings and pack them, while Mimi and I stuffed rag dolls and nightgowns in our carpet bags. I could hear my mother and grandmother downstairs engaging in a conversation that quickly escalated to a full-scale shouting match. If you engage in this lunacy, you will disgrace the Taylor name, Grandmother Taylor shouted, her voice sparred with indignation. This is my life, and I shall live it as I see fit, Mother shot back at her. with Grandmother Taylor irately barraging Mother with phrases that contained words such as unstable, unfit, disinherit, and disown. We scrambled down her front steps, our carpetbags thumping behind. At Grand Central Depot, we boarded a train for Albany and then switched at that city for a different train. I recall eating sandwiches and sleeping slumped against Mimi as we rumbled at great speed through the night. I remember being alert with excitement coupled with anxious worry over what lay ahead, but also suffused with relief to be away from Grandmother Taylor's disapproving eyes. My giddy, thrilled state slowly gave way to a deep exhaustion. What a day it had been! Long, yawning widely, I slumped in my seat next to Mimi and let the train lull me. Mother sat rocking the twins in their perambulator with one hand, engrossed in a slim novel she'd bought at the newsstand at Grand Central Depot in New York City. "What's the story about?" Mimi asked as I stirred drowsily beside her. "Tell us." Mother put down her book. "It's an adventure tale titled Futility by a man named Morgan Robertson," she said. "It's about a very, very large ship called the Titan that hits an iceberg and sinks on its very first voyage. It seems that most of its passengers are about to drown." "I don't like that story," Mimi said. "No, is it true?" "No, it's not true. It's just fiction that the writer made up from his imagination," she answered. "It's too sad," Mimi declared. "You're right. I don't like it either." Mother closed the book and set it aside on her seat. "It's putting me in a melancholy frame of mind, and I hadn't even realized it. That's not what I need right now. I must entertain only the most positive of thoughts if I am to move forward effectively." My fingers and wrist are sore from holding this book. I must refrain from the sense of uncouth humor that I normally take part in. Hold the phone! Who turned me into a 19th century woman? Who turned me into a 19th century woman? Who? Oh my god. Who turned me into a 19th century woman? Oh my goodness. Am I sending this into Discord? Yes. Yes, I am. I hate having to favor one of my fingers, especially on my right hand. The people in the Discord server know what I've done with such idiocy of self. Can I stop being classy right now? Gosh. It's either I am being chaotic and nasty brained, or I'm being overly classy right now. I can't find a neutral. God. We're gonna finish chapter 4 and then I'm stopping because this book, I'm blaming this book. It's making me too high class. And that's not okay. I am a nasty, stinky rat person. I am a nasty, stinky rat person. And I need to be a stinky rat person. Screw you, bump reminder. Yeah. god, I always send the message and then we're turning on this little what? You could still move this whole time? He could still move this whole time. Now he's done. We just need to finish chapter 4. Alright, Sucre, you got this. Where did I leave off? Okay, yeah. We're good. Finally, we reached the bustling city of Buffalo, New York. We spent a night in a rather shabby hotel there. It was newly morning, still almost dark, when Mother roused us, and we hurried down to the street without even telling anyone we were leaving. There she hired a horse-drawn cab to carry us as close to Spirit Vale as the last of her money would allow. That wasn't far enough, apparently, because I recall us walking for quite a while along a dirt road. I pushed the twins while Mother and Mimi dragged our bags. In memory I see us passing under a tall wooden arch, atop of which was a sign with the words Spirit Vale welcomes the living and those gone beyond, all written in birch branches. The words had a pinkish tone in the early morning's new light. We made our way down a wide dirt road lined with wooden buildings, each one sporting an open front porch decorated with intricate gingerbread latticework. The hour was so early that no one was around. Mother paused at a four-way intersection and gazed in each direction, looking unsure of where to go next. On one corner was a two-story, red wooden hotel with a porch wrapping around both levels. The sign over the entrance to the front porch read the Spirit Hotel. Mother lifted the twins, cradling one in each arm, and, with a nod of her head, beckoned us to follow her up the hotel steps. Pulling at the front door, she found it to be locked. "Someone's got to come along eventually," she said with a sigh, then directed us to rest on some wicker chairs set around a table on the porch. We were all instantly asleep, Mother too, with the twins nestled on either side of her. The sun was fully up when, through sleepy, slatted eyes, I saw a petite woman of middle age pop her head out the front door and eye us owlishly through thick, rimless glasses. She cleared her throat loudly to rouse us from our slumber. "Hello there," Mother said, instantly bright. "Are you the proprietor of this establishment?" "That I be," the woman replied in a way that was not especially friendly. I see from your nameplate that you are Auntie Lily," Mother observed. "Correct. You need a room?" Auntie Lily asked, inspecting us with a suspicion that I am sure was understandable given our bedraggled condition. "Yes, please," Mother answered. Presumably she had some magic way to pay for this, since I knew from our long walk that she had run out of money. "Well, that's unfortunate, since we're booked up. August is our biggest month. Plus, we don't take children. Too noisy. They disturb the mediums. Mediums require tranquility to contact the beyond," Auntie Lily told us without a hint of apology. "Perhaps your husband there might know of a place where we could stay?" Mother suggested, looking over the woman's right shoulder. Auntie Lily's eyes narrowed and her lined lips drew together angrily. "What did you say?" A shard of vivid morning light cutting across the porch required me to squint up at Auntie Lily. Actually, I was trying to see over her shoulder for any sign of a man who might be standing behind her. I saw no one. Mother's hand went to her mouth in an apologetic gesture. "Oh, I am so sorry. He looked so real that I naturally assumed. Can you forgive me?" "You say he's right next to me? And you saw him?" "I see him still, clear as day," Mother confirmed. "He's recently passed, hasn't he? I feel it was somewhere between last April and now." Auntie Lily continued to hold Mother in a skeptical gaze, but her hard face softened a touch as she nodded. "It was just this past June." "And he was very far away when he died, wasn't he?" Mother sighed sadly. "You told him he was too old to go fight in Cuba, but the dear, stubborn fool insisted. Did his name start with an H? I'm sensing an H." Yes, it did." Auntie Lily took a lace-trimmed hanky from her pocket and dabbed her wet eyes. It weren't even the fighting that got him. It were the malaria. I noticed that Mimi was twirling one of her curls, a sure sign that she was finding something amiss here. Mother put her arm around the stricken woman as she leaned close, speaking confidingly. He says to tell you it was the grandest adventure of his life, and he wouldn't have missed it. He thanks you for understanding why he had to go, and he misses your warm touch, but he is always by your side in spirit. Auntie Lily stepped away from Mother's grasp. Haram, can you hear me? Did you leave any cash stashed anywhere? You left me here sort of strapped for money. Auntie Lily turned to Mother. Well, ask him, she said. Haram, tell the lady. Did you leave any money? Mother held up her hand to quiet Auntie Lily. It's no use. He's gone off to rest. The malaria left him weak, and crossing over drains him. He'll be back, though. He's sworn to never leave your side again. Auntie Lily became teary-eyed once more. That's a comfort. A real comfort. I can see that you got the gift. The gift? Mother questioned. The ability to see those that have crossed over, to predict, to channel spirits. It's Spirit Veil's main industry. Oh, yes, that gift, Mother said. Yes, I have studied mediumship with the Fox sisters of Hydesville. It was my hometown. That impressed Auntie Lily greatly. The Fox sisters, you say? Well, mercy me. Have you come here to set up shop? If that were possible, it would be a dream fulfilled, Mother told Auntie Lily. Her voice a silken river of sincerity. But since you have no room, we will look for other— No! Auntie Lily quickly stopped her. There's not a proper guest room available, but I've been looking for a helper and have set aside a little back cottage for such. Would you mind doing some housekeeping and working the front desk when I can't? It won't pay much, but the cottage will be part of the deal. When would I do my medium work? We could work around that, Auntie Lily offered. None of the other mediums in this town have been able to contact Haram, and him right beside me all the while. For some reason he trusts you, and my Haram was not a trusting man. I wouldn't want to see him go away again. It's wise to be cautious, Mother murmured. Mayhaps it's 'cause you're a child, Auntie Lily conjectured. Haram always liked babies, perhaps 'cause we never had none of our own. If Haram trusts you, then so do I. Auntie Lily's lower jaw began to quiver with the effort of controlling her emotions. Things have been so hard, but you've made me feel better just knowing my Haram is here. I know how it is. I, too, am recently a widow, Mother confided. Auntie Lily linked arms with Mother and guided her toward the door. Pausing at the threshold, Mother instructed Mimi to wake the twins and bring them in. Eager to be helpful, I aided her in rousing Amelie and Emma, who were slow to waken. Bring in that mail, would you, children? Auntie Lily pointed toward a roll of letters bundled together on the wicker table. I held on to Emma while Mimi took the mail in one hand and Amelie in the other. We entered a large, open lobby. On the right-hand side, a long, wooden counter was positioned against the wall. Auntie Lily led us behind the front counter, through her office, and out the back door. We instantly saw a wooden cottage with the same gingerbread scrollwork on its small porch that I had observed on the other buildings. It's small, Auntie Lily allowed, but it's got a wood-burning stove for warmth in the winter, and the outhouse isn't too far a walk into the woods in the back, or you can come to the hotel to use the indoor facilities, if you're particular. It's perfect, Mother declared. I feel excellent vibrations here. I don't feel no vibrations, Auntie Lily said, looking confused. This cottage ain't vibrating. Auntie Lily, Mother said in a confiding tone, everything vibrates. And we are now, what is time? 1 hour 19. Next episode is the start of chapter 5. I am slowly turning into a dainty, class-filled woman because of this book. I can't remember this happening last time I read it, but back then I think it was 5th grade. 6th, perhaps, when I read this book. I remember I had still gone to summer camp that year. Read it during the summer, actually. It was a pleasant read. I think I meant to use it for one of those summer projects that schools have you do when you're in elementary. Do you remember those? When over the summer you'd have a math packet and a packet full of sheets that you would fill out with information on books you read, and you'd have to complete some essays. And you were never sure if it was mandatory or not, but by the time summer ended, apparently it was mandatory to everyone. And it was very foolish. I can understand, for all intents and purposes, wishing to ensure that students are keeping their minds sharp while they're away from school. But I cannot bring myself to understand imposing on one summer by not making it optional. My current school has a summer bridge program that you can partake in if you so please, but they don't mandate it for credits in school or losing credits in your classes. Perhaps it also adds to the fact that they have the block scheduling, so it's undetermined whether a student will be in English or mathematics during their first semester, making it pointless if they do mandate homework, only for it to not matter for their starting classes. I remember I was that one kid who, over the summer, with the homework going on, it was just English and mathematics, and I would feel pity for the other subjects, so I would engage in composing essays or research projects for the other ones as well, so they wouldn't feel left out. I remember one year I did research on the blood moon. It was very fascinating to learn about. I think I was that child who would do research projects for fun. Perhaps that was why I was bullied as a child. But it's not my fault that back then I found information enticing. Yes, that's the word I wish to use. But I would do the work in my free time. But the moment it was mandatory to do, I would no longer enjoy it. Thus, I would no longer do it. So, if you remember, they'd always have those Black History Month projects. My school doesn't do that anymore, yet again on behalf of the block scheduling. But if they did, then I am uncertain as to why they don't. Because any class you can find a way to twist in a Black History Month project to enlighten the mind and expand it towards those who paved the way in science, mathematics, English, or history, that were people of color. So, coming to that realization, it seems a cruel sense of erasure has occurred across my school. Perhaps that could be brought up with the staff, but um, other times, other days, other moments. Now, what was I speaking of? Summer projects, and why I was bullied as a child. I remember I did various presentations. I did Dr. Seuss, Sojourner Truth. Other people that I'd see in books on the aisles of the school library and think they seem fascinating. And I would jump into a world of research and find everything I could, and I'd compose it elegantly with the skill that a writer in 5th grade could have. I remember in 6th grade, I believe I still had this poem somewhere. I believe it's in a white folder. White folder. Ah, yes. exactly where I thought it would be. So, my school would have an event, I could say, at the very least. I believe it was a writer's week thing. This was elementary, where they'd cycle through extracurriculars every day. So there would be gym, library, Spanish, music, and those would be a class, and it would rotate for the days. I can't remember the fifth one. There was a fifth. Or maybe they just had gym 2 days of the week. But they would have you write poetry. And you could choose from the poems, but it seemed so... how do I phrase this? It seemed so contained that I couldn't bring myself to wish to partake in the creation of poetry when it was so rigid and conformed. That's what I wished to say earlier, but I forgot the words. But then, I believe this was the first poem I really wrote, and I still have it because in 6th grade, my English teacher was strict over writing and form, and I believe I idolized her for writing because she would see everything in such depth, but she took absolutely zero nonsense. And she was very stern on grammatical phrasing and vocabulary expansion. And I saw her as stern and rigid in the best ways possible. So it was a rainy day, and I was bored. And I found it in myself to write a poem. And I did. And I still have it to this day because it is my proudest work. For when I showed this to my English teacher, she was amazed and told me that I was capable of fame with my writing. And I don't so much believe that now because, as you know, people grow and lose confidence and fluctuations. But I still love this poem I created, and I'm not going to share it because I fear negative judgment over this, what I shall consider my magnum opus, my greatest work. And it was incredible, and I loved it because the sternest person that I had met thus far loved it. And it led me to the poetry phase of my life, and I am forever grateful for that. So I hold on to that poem in a place where I won't lose it. And if I ever do, I believe I have it saved in a Google document. But it is my proudest work and my proudest memory. So that's a demonstration of how I was as a student. I was defiant. I did things for my own enjoyment rather than others, and now I believe that I am the complete opposite. It's funny how people change as years come and go. But I believe this podcast has gone on for too long. Don't you agree? I know Jinxie could listen to my voice for hours on end, so they've said. And that's all their fault for falling for me. Honestly. Well, I believe we're about to reach an hour 30. Yes, we are. So that means we're calling it to a close. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. And I hope you enjoyed. And I hope that this filter It's not even a filter. It's just a mannerism. Wears off by tomorrow, or in a matter of moments. And I hope it doesn't resurface next week. 10 seconds, and I want to stop exactly. So, goodbye for this week. And I hope to see you again next time.